All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Serious Angler Podcast, powered by our friends over at X2 Power Batteries. We're here with the captain, Mr. Andy Full. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Egbrett. Andy, long day on the stream. How'd it go?
It was all right. I'm going to save how it really went for a later date because I don't want to blow up too much water, but it was good. It was a slow start, and then just fished a bunch of new water that I haven't fished in probably 10, 11 years, and went on a hike. Was able to clear my mind on a lot of things and caught a bunch of fish. So it was a fun day. How was sitting at home working?
Such a jerk. You're asking that on purpose. Oh, man. It was splendid. I loved looking at my computer screen. It really topped the view of watching some steelhead at the end of your line, you jerk.
Yeah. I mean, although you won't go steelhead fishing with me, so you don't know the true experience. So
it's very true. Sorry, man. If it ain't brown or green, I don't want to go catch it.
Well, they do turn green. So like they got these green backs, and then if they get real dirty, they turn brown with pink. So they're green and brown. So you lose that argument, buddy.
I know. Fair enough. Dude, I am looking forward to a weekend because I haven't been able to fish. Well, obviously we went fishing Friday last week with Rudd for the wedding, but past couple weeks haven't really been able to dedicate like a full day to go and fish and filming. So I'm hoping that these big old green northern fish will come and play for one last weekend before it gets too cold up here. Because I'm gonna get distracted here with that late fall smallmouth bite, I'm sure. So I'm gonna try to go play around with some green ones.
Snow on Halloween, so you better hurry up because once that water hits a certain degree, those green ones hate to bite up here for whatever reason.
I will say though, Halloween has always been my favorite day fishing wise the past few falls because the last Halloween caught that 7-pound largemouth, and then the one before that caught one that was almost 7. So I always have a good Halloween for whatever it is. It's just spooky season, man. The monsters come out to play. But
I tentatively have my last bass trip on Sunday, and it's going to be raining and cold all day. So I can't wait. I got to call Jeff and see if I can put my boat in his barn and air it out after that for a couple days because it's going to be a drencher. But the smallmouth are biting on Erie, which I do have some days open. I'm going to leave the boat out probably till December if people want to sneak out to end on that note. So, yeah.
Well, I am looking forward to picking up a big old jig this weekend and going to work, which is fitting because, Andy, I would say our guest for today, Mr. Caleb Kuphall, I would put in the bucket of some of the best jig or flippers, jig fishermen or flippers that are on the Bassmaster Elite Series. And not only does he just pick up a jig off the shelf and go, he makes it from start to finish, which we're going to get into a little bit here. Which we'll get into all that because we're going to get into one, obviously how he's making his jigs, but 2, we're going to get into some unique fall baits that we like to throw. And Andy and I are going to give some of ours. Caleb's going to give some of his. But before that, let's bring him on here, introduce him, and that is Mr. Caleb Kuphall. What's going on, man?
Doing well, guys. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah. Is it getting cold up there yet?
Not quite yet. Today is about 65 degrees. We're expecting it to possibly snow this weekend, though. So it's going to get cold here quick, but for now, it's been pretty decent. Water's still, in the about upper 50s now. So, it's starting to get down there. Fish are biting,
Is that warm for this time of year in Wisconsin normally?
It has been, yeah. We've had a real late kind of summer, bleeding into the fall now, but I think it's going to change quick. Our leaves around here are, we got a lot of trees that are still green, and that's just not normal this time of year. So,
yeah, that's kind of crazy that you got some green because we're basically all orange and red and yellow up here.
And trees with no leaves at this point too. Like, I feel like our fall foliage season went from like green to all the trees changed in like 2 days. And it was warm out when they all changed, which was wild. That never happens. Usually.
Yeah, that's kind of what's happening here too. But I live in the kind of the southern part of Wisconsin. So, it's a little bit warmer down here. It's about, if you go to the top of the state, it's like 10 degrees colder. So,
yeah.
Well, yeah, around here.
Are you the guy picking up a bow chasing some whitetail, or are you out here still fishing?
No, I fish till the end. I fished until the water gets hard. I'm not into hunting. I don't know. I've just never had, like a family member, like, my dad or grandfather or anything really get me into the sport. So, it's kind of just been fishing. And surprisingly, my family members, my dad, my grandfather did a little bit of fishing, but my dad, he doesn't do any fishing. I got 3 brothers, none of them fish at all. So I'm just kind of, the lone outdoorsman, you might say.
Sounds like me and Caleb here have a similar life story. My dad doesn't fish. None of my siblings fish. None of my grandparents fished, and I don't hunt. So I think we'd get along pretty good here.
Yeah, exactly. No, I fished till the end. I mean, I think last year my last day out was December 13th. So, and that's where you can't go out. There's like one lake that's still open, that's got some current that isn't up. So last year I had to break a bunch of ice.
Do you ever go down like Illinois and fish in the winter, or is like do their lakes freeze at the same time?
I used to, now with like the tournaments, that we do, the Elite Series and stuff, they start so early that, it really doesn't, my off season is so short, that it really doesn't pay to go down there and, spend any kind of time. So,
yeah, you're probably heading to Florida in mid-December, I would assume, or close to it.
I don't plan on it. I'm going down to Toledo Bend, I think mid-January, just right before the cutoff. Yeah. Planning on getting down there, doing some pre-practicing in. I would like to get down to the Harris chain at some point, but we'll just have to see, maybe, just before the cutoff there as well. But I don't know. It's going to be an interesting year. The schedule's out now. It's like that that were good, as opposed to this last year. There were events that I've never been before, but this year I like it, except for the last 1 or 2 maybe, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, kind of getting into that, like how you've gotten to this point, if no parents got you into fishing or outdoorsy or anything like that, how the heck did you get into fishing then in the first place?
That's a great question.
Yeah. So, well, my brother used to live on a lake, and kind of got me into it. I was really young and, just bluegills and stuff like that. But when I was 12 years old, my family moved out to a different place, 2 like 12 anchor lakes, near it, and we weren't on the lake, but we were near it, and they were just chock full of bass, and that's kind of how I got into bass fishing. I used to drag a canoe down there and fish just about every day, and I bought my first boat when I was 18, got a Nitro 700 LX, and started fishing little tournaments around the house and got into the BFLs, fished them for a couple of years. Then I fished back then it was the Everstart series for a couple of years there. And then I got into the FLW Tour as a co-angler. I fished that for 5 years, learning from, all the best guys, and some of them who I, compete against today. But then I kind of crossed over to the boater side, fished the BFLs and the Everstarts, and then eventually, Bassmaster Opens, and that's kind of the way it's gone for me.
Heck yeah. Has your style changed in any way from that? Have you always been just a flipper, kind of do it your way kind of deal, or have you morphed a little bit now that you've gotten to the elites?
That's what I prefer to do. Obviously, you want to kind of fish your strengths. That's how I got into the Elite Series, is fishing that way. 2019 is when I qualified through the Opens, and that was a 4 tournament division that year. So we had to do 4 tournaments to qualify. And I think we went to Toledo Bend on the first one, Mississippi River in there, Smith Lake, Alabama, and then Grand Lake got the season up. So a number of more power fishing type fisheries. And I think, we're talking about jigs today. I think I caught them on a jig in every single event. I think there was a few outlying fish that I caught on like a swim jig, I think, at the Mississippi River, but I think every single fish that I caught that year was on my homemade jig. So that was kind of interesting. So, I mean, not versatile by any means, but it gets you there.
That's just confidence. That's
so,
all
but since
I'm forcing a jig, they're eating a jig, and I love it. Is basically was your mantra for those tournaments.
Yeah, it generates big bites. I mean, if they're eating it, and you know what? That's another thing is that you can eat around. They're gonna eat it. Those things that you can pretty much catch fish anytime you want to catch fish on it. It doesn't seem like it really has a niche in any way where, you have to be using it or, only in a certain situation. It's versatile. I mean, you can use it in pretty much anything you want.
Yeah. Well, I guess real fast before we kind of get into your specific jig setup and how you make it with molds and things like that. How do you, because I feel like, and say what, the past 5-7 years, maybe even more recent than that. But like I feel like the compact jig, the smaller compact jig, has become pretty popular amongst. I feel like it's more so maybe the Northerners, but then you have your guys that are like, I want to throw this big flipping jig, bigger the better. And there's guys that throw finesse. How do you decide? Like, do you have one that you just stay universal throughout, that's just kind of like a normal standard size, or is there times when you bulk up? Is there times when you go down to compact? Like, how do you differentiate size of your flipping jig?
Yeah, there's one that I throw more than anything else, and that's just pretty much just a standard flipping jig. I mold them in I think 3/8 and half with a 5/8 every once in a while, but I use that one probably 60% of the time, and then I like pouring a ball head. That one I use generally more around like any lakes that don't have any weeds in it, a lot of rock structure, stuff like that. It's more of a finesse jig. I crop the skirts off at the top. It's a finesse deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got jigs that I use for grass fishing a lot too. Punching grass, and I make those in like a 5/8 up to a 7/8, and those have got like a more of a cone, head on them, so you can flip short targets and stuff and punch through those weeds. But I do tie a football head as well. That's for obviously open water stuff. But I would say the one that I do the most is just that standard. It's a Sparky head, from Do It Molds, and that's kind of been the staple for me. I fish docks with it. I fish weeds with it. I fish, just a great open water jig. So that's been my staple for almost 20 years now.
Now, do you get crazy on colors, or are you pretty much standard?
I used to tie like, a dozen different colors, and I used to experiment all the time, and it's like, oh, this one's going to be great, and this one, I got to change I need 4 more strands of this color, before they're going to bite, but now I pretty much, honestly, I have like 4 colors. And that's about it. Generally,
How do you choose your color?
How do I choose a color?
Yeah,
whatever the fish bite. I mean,
all 4 on deck all the time.
I've done it. Yeah, exactly. I've done it for so many years that I kind of have developed the colors that I really like, and kind of just stick with those. I really don't, vary it a whole lot. I'm kind of of a believer in, that if you have a lot of colors, it's more just for the, in a company, it's more just for the fishermen to, buy more colors because we need them all, But in reality, what the fish are going to bite, are they going to bite a jig that's got 4 more strands of orange in it than, a standard green pumpkin, or, stuff like that. It's just, I don't think so. I mean, I got one color, honestly, that I throw probably, 75% of the time. And then the other 3 or 4 colors are, 25% of the time just for special situations and watercolors and that sort of thing.
I dig it. I like that. I'm the same way. I mean, on the occasion that I throw a swim jig, I don't throw a swim jig enough, but I basically only ever really throw like a white or maybe a black and blue. When it comes to flipping a jig, it's either green pumpkin or black and blue. That's about all I'll throw anymore. Maybe a black here and there, but
Honestly, that's pretty much all you need. I do dabble a little bit in my trailers. I do carry a lot of dyes and stuff that, I'll dye a trailer, generally the ends, with orange or chartreuse or blue or, whatever there. But, not a whole lot though, pretty much. You got your bread and butter and you stick with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. I'm like black, blue, like a PB&J, and then a green pumpkin. And then it's the same thing. Like I carried 3 or 4 different trailers and dyes and mix them based on what the watercolor is. Or if a fish spits up something on my deck, I can tell what they're really eating on and go from there.
Right, where you need to be going. Yep. Match
just
the hatches and where.
Don't ask him about Senkos because Andy's got like 45,000 different colors of Senkos.
No, I do not. I have 4 colors. 4.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know. The blue looks a little bit purple today. We're going purple flake.
4 colors.
Yeah, that pretty much it pretty much goes for everything, that I do. Like if you look at my thousands and thousands of bags of plastics in my basement, you see black and blue and you see green pumpkin more than anything else, and not to say that, I mean, yeah, I use a lot of other colors, just because they're, confidence baits and, sometimes they'll bite, this color as opposed to that one a little bit better. But in generalities, when you go to so many different lakes, you kind of got to keep it simple, at least at first. So,
yeah. How much do you see, like, when you go from lake to lake to lake, that they might eat, like, let's say a black jig, and you can throw the same jig on every lake, but a lot of times it's just like a simple nuance of like dipping the tail green or orange that they bite it better?
Yeah, I would see that a lot. I think it really depends on the forage that you're fishing in. Generally, if you got a strong bluegill bite, if they're feeding on bluegills, then I'll put a little bit of chartreuse on the ends, on the ends of my jigs. But if the water's really dirty, you obviously go to a black blue, or if you shad patterns and stuff like that, go with something a little bit lighter, but yeah, I mean, you find that in certain situations, you bite something a little bit better than the rest. So
yeah, I'm a stickler when it comes to it. I always get stuck just throwing the same jig everywhere, even though I like 4 different colors. Whatever bait I'm getting bit on one lake, I'm like, it's gonna work because it's my confidence, and it usually does. So
it's funny how that works.
Right. Yep.
People tell you what you.
That's the biggest thing. It's all confidence.
100%. So with that, I have 2 more questions that we're going on. Of course, I'm very curious. Before we start talking about your jig specifically, do you have like a go-to trailer that you're willing to talk about?
Yeah, I do. It's back when I first designed the jig, I used to use the Zoom Chunk Junior. It's just a basic chunk, nothing special, doesn't have any action whatsoever to it. Now the one that I primarily, throw the most would be a Big Bites Salty Craw, I think it's called. I used to buy them from Lure Parts Online, and they called it a Salty Craw. I'm not sure what Big Bite calls it, but it's the same identical profile and everything. It's a 2.75 inch. They sell it in 2 different sizes. They got the 2.75 and they got the 3.5, and I like the smaller one, generally for what I'm doing. So, and I think they only sell them in like 5 different colors. So, I get pretty much just the standard green pumpkin, black, blue, and maybe one other. But that's my, that's the one that I throw probably 80% of the time. Obviously on my other jigs, I'm going to be throwing something a little bit different, like on grass jigs and football heads and, stuff like that. But on that jig, that's what I throw.
I like it.
Yeah.
And I like it because they have 100 packs. Because I use a lot of them.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I love that about Big Bite because Andy and I have invested in a few of them, and it's just get as many as you possibly can.
Yep.
I know
There's
people
one thing I
talk
could
about,
say about soft plastic companies. They got to have more 100 packs.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite part about Big Bite. And it's not even so much that the bait is so great. It's the fact that you can get them in bulk and save a ton of money. Because as a jig trailer, if it has any bit of action, it's just a compliment to the profile. Like if they're eating
Right.
a jig, they're going to eat it with just about any trailer. It's just what do you have confidence in my
Right.
opinion. As long as it looks good. So.
Now I'm going through trying to figure out what craw it might have been from Big Bite baits that you were talking
There
about.
can't be more than a couple, I would guess. Salty Craw, something like that.
So here we go.
They got it on Tackle Warehouse.
I'm going to read you all of the Big Bite baits, craw baits that they have in their lineup. We have the Big Bite baits. We have the Yo Mama, the Yo Daddy, the okay, we could take out craw tubes. That's a different thing. We have the swimming craw. We have the I don't even know what is that even a bass. It looks like a craw, but it looks tiny. The Sensation Ram Tail, the Real Deal craw, the Kamikaze craw. Yeah. We have the college craw. I don't know who came up with college craw. That's an interesting one. The chunk. What else do they have?
That's probably it.
I think that's it. But it's like,
does it got pinchers on it?
I think it's a college craw.
Let's see. I'll pull it up and
it's just a chunk and it's got pinchers. It's got pinchers on the end, like a craw pincher.
Okay, maybe it's not the college craw. College craw kind of looks chigger craw-esque. Let's see.
Oh,
Wish I had one with me.
It's just Big Bite Baits chunk, and they come in a 100 pack, and there's 3 colors. There's black, blue, green pumpkin, and watermelon seed red. You know what it kind of looks like to me is an enhanced version of the Zoom Super Chunk because they had like the swimming Super Chunk. That was like the mix between, and then it looks like all they did was cut like an extra flange in that chunk.
Is it this one?
No.
Nope.
Which one is it?
That's like a baby pack-a.
It's a chunk. Like look, it's very similar to the Rage chunk, but it's got it's got a cut in the middle of the pincher, so you have 4 flanges on instead of 2.
Oh, the Kamikaze craw?
No.
Yeah.
I don't know if
that's it. Yep.
Which one is it? Which one did you say?
The one that has it's pinchers, but it's got 4 points on the end.
It's just the standard chunk.
2 on each side.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the standard chunk. Yep.
Yeah, they have it on Omnia. Hold on, Bailey.
Sorry, it's like I was just
there Parts Online sells them too. There must be a generic mold because they there's a bunch of different companies that sell those things.
There it is.
That's it. Yeah, that's it right there.
Oh, all right.
We found it.
We did indeed. Omnia looks like they do not have it in 100 packs, so we'll have to talk to them. But they have it. Yeah, I think they come in like 8 or something. Hold on, let's see.
While he's looking at that, Caleb, what is your standard flipping setup like from rod reel standpoint?
So I use the 7-1 medium heavy. It's St. Croix's Legend Tournament Series, Legend Tournament Bass. And it's a little bit lighter rod than a lot of guys use. The guys that I fish against, they say, "Oh man, that's too light a rod. You got to go up to heavy or something." But I don't know. There's something about that rod that just, is just right for working that jig. But outside of that, use a Piscifun Alloy M for the reel, and then I usually go with 17 to 20 pound vicious fluorocarbon. Usually go with just the standard green label 100% vicious, but usually 20 pound for that jig. I will go down to either 15 or 17 if it's really clear water scenario. But I've always been using that 7 to 7-1 medium heavy though all the years that I've been fishing that thing. I started fishing it with the old St. Croix Avids, and I think I went to the Avid X for a while, and now using those Legend tournaments are just the perfect rod for it.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I like the rod butt they have on those. I haven't used too many St. Croix, but
they hit a home run with that one. They came out with it, I think, like 2 years ago. I want to say now the new Legend tournament, the revamped version. But yeah, they hit a home run with that one. That's been a great rod. The whole series is awesome.
oh, maybe I'm confused. Is the Legend tournament have the same like bulbous butt end that the Legend Extreme has? Does that make sense?
It doesn't have a bulb on it. No. I'd have to look and see exactly what it has, but it's a split grip. It's a split grip on there.
Oh, okay.
But they revamped them. They put a little different reel seat on it, and they slimmed down the cork a little bit. It's easier to palm now. It's a little bit thinner than their old versions were, but I'm not sure what's on the end.
Oh yeah, it
way
looks
down
like the
at the-
tournament are just cork. I looked it up. But yeah,
yeah, it's cork. Yeah.
got it. Yeah, the Legend Extreme has like the. Here, I'll share screen it.
Yeah, they
sound
got the what is it, like that neoprene handle, that black one? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got the bulb on the end. They used to do that or have that same style with the Avids as well. It was a full cork model, but that was some time ago. They don't even make those anymore, I don't believe.
It's crazy what in like 10 years the rod market has become. Because I feel like growing up, it was St. Croix and Loomis. Obviously, you had your general ones like Luz and Abu in there, but like I feel like it was like St. Croix was like what everyone was striving to go buy, that or the Loomis rods. Now there's 45,000
you go
rod brands.
You go on to Tackle Warehouse and you look at all the rod brands now, and it's like there's like 50 of them. It's just everybody makes a rod nowadays for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, and then every rod brand thinks they need to make a reel, and every reel brand thinks they need to make a rod. Where it's like sometimes you guys can stop.
That's right. They want to do it all, evidently. Yeah, St. Croix just came out with their new one. Their 7 reels.
Yeah.
So those are pretty interesting.
Have you gotten a chance to use them yet?
No. I mean, since I'm sponsored by another reel manufacturer, I'm probably not going to be running them. But I did get my hands on a few of them last time I went up to the factory. And they're pretty legit. I mean, they're it's a solid reel. Obviously, anything coming out from St. Croix is going to be a good product.
Yeah.
So,
For sure.
but yeah, they look good. I'm sure they'll do really well with them.
Nice. Well, dude, let's dive into your jig, your creation.
Half hour in, we're here to talk jigs.
My jig, yeah. So I developed that jig probably almost 20 years ago, and I went through all kinds of testing on it, and making sure that everything was just right. I went through tons of different hooks and weed guards and skirts and 1,000 different colors and all that stuff. But I kind of settled on the Sparky mold from Do It. That's been kind of the staple for me. And I think that mold comes in a quarter, a 3/8, a half, and a 5/8. And that's kind of been the one that I use. But I make them from scratch. I pour the lead. I get the lead from a friend of mine that used to work for a tire shop, and they got the lead weights and stuff that he gives me. I get bucket loads of it. So but yeah, I pour them, I paint them. I put the weed guard, the filaments in them, and it's just been a great jig. I got one right here. I'll show you.
Here, we'll blow it up here.
Yeah, this is kind of the standard hook that I use. Or the standard color right there. That's just a standard green pumpkin. It's got actually 3 different colors in it. 2 are barbed wire, and then the other one's going to be a Dalmatian. So
I see some green and some purple.
What's that?
I see some green in the purple. I might be reflecting off the camera.
There's no purple in there. There's some green fleck in there, though.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what they call that particular strand, but it's like I would consider it almost like a whiskey or an ale.
Okay.
With the green fleck. But the other ones, the barbed wire ones, are going to be just a standard army green, and then the Dalmatian would be just a standard green pumpkin, I believe it is. So, but one kind of interesting thing that I do is And I saw Randall Tharp do this a number of years ago, but he puts this little piece of shrink tubing on here
Mhm.
up from the bend pretty much, and that basically creates a stopper for that chunk. Especially when you're flipping docks and stuff like that, skipping underneath it. A lot of times those chunks, tend to go all the way down here and they just wreck the action. So yeah, I learned to do this. Just put the shrink tubing on there and just don't shrink one end of it. So it's kind of opened at this end, and that'll stop that chunk from sliding down. So that's kind of a
That's
unique,
ingenious.
type of deal that I do with it. The actual filaments are a 24 thousandths of an inch. I think they make 18 thousandths, 21 thousandths, and then a 24. This would be their heavy one, and it's a Boss.
That's freaking sick. Now, do you
Boss manufacturer.
you might have said it already, but which hook do you put in that?
The hook I use is a Gamakatsu 294.
294. Okay.
And it used to be harder to get. Now you can get it pretty much anywhere. You can get it on Tackle Warehouse. It's I don't think they call it a 294. It's their just standard 60-degree jig hook that they have on there. I'm not sure that they actually name it 294, but that's the number from Gamakatsu on it. A lot of companies have the 291s, and that's going to be a bronze finish, where the 294s are going to have the black nickel.
Oh, sweet. So what we'll do for folks that are listening or watching this on YouTube, we'll have the specific head as well as hooks and all that jazz linked to Do It Molds down there in case, one, you want to get set up, or two, you're already set up and you want to get that specific deal that Caleb's pouring, as well as we'll put his jig flipping rod set up, all that jazz down there to Omnia too. When it comes to the keeper, do you have a specific preference in what your jigs have from a keeper standpoint, or does it not matter too much for you because you're using chunks?
Well, yeah, on this particular jig, it doesn't matter because I use the chunks. I got that little stopper on there, and that's pretty much it for that jig. I will use a keeper for like my grass jigs and a number of my other ones as well. Something that I'm actually threading on. That I'll use a keeper for. My keeper system is kind of an interesting deal. I actually the last video that I did for Do It Molds had that particular keeper system in it, but it's kind of unlike a standard keeper. If you look on a jig, basically what I do is I use kind of a rubbery substance. It's almost like a rubber band, and I tie a loop into the jig before I actually tie the weed guard on, or the skirt material on. And that loop, basically, you thread your bait on there, and then you just stretch the loop over the hook, and it locks that plastic in place. So there's not a whole lot of jig companies, I don't think, that actually do it that way. I've only seen a couple jigs, that have that, but personally, I love like screw locks. They do an excellent job of, holding plastics, but I'm not a huge fan of just the standard wire keepers. It wrecks your bait real fast, and it just doesn't seem to do a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a big fan of like the you're like double collar, no, not double collar, double holder. And I just usually just super glue them. But other than that,
yeah, one spike from the bottom, one from the top. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
I think it's the one that has like it's just two rings, one with like one more of an insert.
Oh, like a double barb where it slides up and you super glue it.
Double barb.
Yeah, I'll share screen.
The lead has a double barb on it to grab the bait. A lot of swim jig heads will have it. Not swim jig heads, but like swim bait heads will have it.
That's usually the one I just go with, where it just kind of locks the plastic in, but then I usually just super glue it, where it doesn't have like the
super glue it in,
wreck it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can see what I don't know, for whatever reason, and it's like I don't get why I won't do it, because literally I was sitting there drooling watching you flip cypress trees on Santee Cooper with your jig, and I won't use a chunk yet. I don't know, for whatever reason I have this mental gap over throwing a chunk on a jig. I don't know if I think it goes back to you talking about how there's a lot of these baits that just sell the angler. I think that's what it is if my OCD sees a jig and I must have it like threaded on perfectly. And then maybe it's just how my mind works, where it's like you just put on a chunk and you're good to go. And for whatever reason, my OCD just can't overcome doing that, even though I watch you do it and it works supremely well. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what. It's just something that I've done. I've liked the chunks over the, threading anything on, and that could have something to do with the baits that you're putting on there too. I mean, if you're threading a bait on, usually they don't last nearly as long as the chunks do. You get a couple fish on them and they're done.
Mhm.
But I mean, there you got so many different options out there, like beaver styles and twin tail trailers, and there's just so many options out there. Craw trailers, like a lot of the Rage series stuff like that a lot of guys use. There's so many options out there. You just got to kind of feel your way through them and get your confidence baits. So
yeah, and I just need to suck it up and do it, because literally some of the best jig fishermen like yourself all use chunks, like yourself, Bill Lowen,
some
Andy
pork,
Morgan.
baby.
Yeah, like
Some
all you
old
guys are using
pork.
chunks. And I'm sitting
yeah,
here like,
The old pork rind.
the old pork rinds. Yep. The Uncle Josh number 11s. I used to use those all the time, especially in the fall. A little bit of cold water bass fishing.
I think my first ever fish I caught on a jig was a black and blue jig with an Uncle Josh's number 11 pork chunk. And that's the only fish I ever caught with that chunk. And then for the longest time, I used the triple rattleback jig, which has a similar head, but with a big old rattle in it. And I bought the Zoom Super Speed chunk, I think it is. So it's got like the arms on it, so it really kicks hard. And it has basically the same style as the big bite bait one that you have. And it was always black and blue with a sapphire blue chunk, and caught so many good fish with it. And then one day I just got away from it.
Right. I've always been, there's so many different styles of trailers out there, but I've always kind of been, the type that I don't like a real heavy jig. I fished actually a 3/8 quite a bit. And if you put anything else on there that's, that's not a chunk or a smaller chunk like that, it just pulls too much water, and it sinks way too slow. And yeah. I mean, weight in a jig is so crucial as far as, getting bites, and pairing that with a good plastic, is really, really crucial as far as the action and the, the rate of fall that you're going to get.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is with a chunk, you're seeing an increased rate of fall on your jig. So
absolutely.
You
100%.
can justify using a lighter weight to get it down faster.
Yep.
I love it.
And for me, especially, living in the North, we deal with a lot of grass licks up here. And, fishing a 3/8 through grass is a lot easier than throwing a half. It's just the way it is. I can get way more bites on a 3/8 up here than a half, because, the half just digs way, too far down in that grass, and then you gotta, jerk it out, and you're, pulling grass with you and stuff like that, where that 3/8 just kind of slides through there.
Almost rest
so
on
it
top
all
of the
depends.
grass too, in spots, I would assume.
Yep. So a lot of times, up here too, especially this time of year when the water gets a lot colder, the fish aren't quite as active, and that 3/8 really, outperforms that half ouncer, and I see it all the time. I sell a lot of these jigs that I make. I've sold a bunch of them over the years to friends and stuff, and the majority of them like, buying the half ounce ones, and I'm like, hey, that's fine by me. I catch a lot more fish on the 3/8 than the half, but seems like if you're throwing a flipping jig, you're throwing a half ounce. That's kind of the standby for pretty much everybody. It's the half to the 5/8. Those are the two sizes. But there's something about that 3/8 that really, really gets those fish going, and especially in colder water.
That makes sense.
I like it.
So before we get into some unique fall baits, unless you have something else too, Andy, my question for you, and I think this is more of preference, but I'm curious if you have any thoughts on it. So watching you break down these cypress trees on Santee with a jig, and watching Luke Palmer doing the same thing, but with a Texas rig. I think it was like a Yum Woolly Bug or something like that. Just a Texas rig, no skirt or anything like that. It's both effective for you guys. But again, I think it's preference, but I'm curious for you, like when would you determine if you're going to flip a jig or you're going to flip a Texas rig?
Oh, that's a great question.
For me, honestly, it's a lot of just confidence. You know, what I have confidence in throwing. I'm not sure. There are some situations where you're going to get bit on either one or the other better. You know, and that's kind of through trial and error and experiment. But, you know, for me, it's more, I have more confidence in, you know, a jig than I do like let's say just a beaver style bait. And, you know, that's pretty much just it for me. I think my hookup ratio is a lot better with a jig than it is with a creature style bait. But yeah, that's just kind of, you know, been it for me. I think I can get a straighter fall as well. Like when you're flipping cypress trees, you know, with a jig, you're going to get, you know, it's going to hit the bottom where you put it on the, you know, where you put it on that jig. And if you're flipping like a beaver, honestly, you have you know, you have no idea where that thing's going to be going. Yeah. It's going to be spinning or gliding to the side or, you know, stuff like that. So, you know, you can be a little bit more accurate with it that way. But again, I mean, it's like, you know, I think, didn't he win flipping a creature this last year down there? I think. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what bait he was using, but
I think it was. I just looked it up to confirm because I think it is the Woolly Bug. I double checked because after saying it Woolly Bug for the first time, I'm like, does that make sense? Because like I like the big bite, Yum's got like 34 craws too. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, is that the right bug or craw for what he was throwing? But it says at least the internet say a Woolly Bug, or according to LureNet. So
yeah, it all depends on the bait. Like if he was throwing a craw, you know, then he's going to get a straight fall with that. Yeah. But any sort of beaver bait, you're going to be pretty erratic with your action as it's falling.
For sure. All right.
Well, yeah, for me though, it's, you know, it's a confidence thing. So
that makes sense. Yeah, just kind of like a feel, intuition.
I think Bailey
broke up for a second.
Yeah, I don't know if I can finish his sentence. He was talking about like feel and intuition and the way that you have confidence in the bait ultimately, and hopefully he comes back here because that's a pretty bad face if somebody wanted to screenshot it. But no, I mean, ultimately to get more bites when you're fishing, it's all about confidence. You have to be you have to fish what you're confident in. And that goes not just baits, it's rod reel setup the whole way. Electronics, boat. You have to have confidence in what you're doing. If you don't, you're not going to catch them. I don't care what anyone says. You can be the best angler in the world and you have no confidence, you're not catching fish. So
right.
You guys got me?
Exactly.
Yeah. You're welcome back.
Yep.
I have some hate mail that's going to be going towards my internet provider here soon. But
you've been saying that for 3 weeks.
I know, and I'm still having hate mail sent towards it. It's just sorry about that. Either way, jig fishing aside, looking at the fall, are you a guy that's going to pick up the jig and not let the jig down till the end of fall, or do you have some unique fall baits that not everybody is throwing? Because I feel like this time of year, it's like a single swimmer, an A rig, a jerk bait, or a football jig. Is there anything unique that you throw in the fall time to catch some fish?
I wouldn't say anything unique. It's not like I just throw a jig and that's all I throw. I throw a bunch of other stuff, but my confidence baits up here in the fall, you know, consist of lipless crankbait, probably number one, square bill, obviously a jig, jerk bait, especially for when it gets a little bit colder out, especially for smallmouth up here as well. Jerk bait's dynamite this time of year. You know, and swim bait probably, like a larger swim bait, like a big Tech or something, you know, 4.8 inch or something like that is usually really good. You know, this time of year, but
on like a jig head or like a
just with a jig head, just with a standard jig head. Yeah, Do It Molds makes one. It's just a basically just a bullet head. I mean, it looks like just a, you know, just a bullet head. It's got two little keepers that come out at each side, and I'll glue my swim baits on. But yeah, it's just pretty standard baits.
Makes sense. I've been seeing more guys doing
So
the like big Kitech or big rage swimmer with doing like that line through technique, taking the small tubing, going through and using a treble hook over using a jig head or a EWG, which I thought is interesting. I don't know why they choose that style of rigging over, say, a jig head or weighted EWG.
right. Yeah, I've just used the one. I use actually the same hook that I use in my jig, the 294. I generally use like a 3-aught in that one, but generally don't throw trebles. We're using them through a lot of grass up here, so you kind of gotta, with that technique, fish it over the grass and get bites that way. So treble just wouldn't be very efficient in that sort of cover.
Yeah, in complete agreement with you on that one. Well, Andy and I also, we came to the show with some three what we like to think is quote unquote unique fall baits. So I guess Andy, do you have one you want to throw in the ring?
Yeah, so like probably the most unique one I have that we'll catch smallmouth on from time to time on Lake Erie, and I'm sure this could apply to like any deep water spot in a lot of lakes across the country, is just like the 2 3/4 to 3 1/4 inch jigging wrap. Like it's just deadly. You can hang it right in front of their face and slowly twitch it and catch a lot of big fish with it. Especially if they're eating perch or like any type of shad, and put it right in that bait fish school. That you know how it is, Bailey. It's a good one.
I think it was Cody Huff that put out a pretty good video. I want to say it was Wired to Fish. He did it with jig and wrap. You're just like saying that it's good in the summer too when they start schooling, but when they start school in the
Do you
summer,
throw that thing at all, or do you just that's all vertical jigging?
For me, a lot of times like blade baits, jigging spoons, and the jigging wrap. For me, it's all vertical, up and down.
All vertical.
I have the most content. I have the most confident going up and down. So,
right.
I know some people do cast it for sure, and they kind of like hop it back, almost not necessarily like a blade bait, but almost kind of like what you would do with like a finesse jig, kind of creeping and hopping it back. Obviously, pending bottom hardness too, and I'm sure some people are. I'm assuming nowadays people are throwing it on forward facing too, but I mean, like it's worked on summer, schooling fish, things like that, all the way up to fall when it gets super cold, and they're kind of like super close to bottom, kind of keeping above them like a Demiki.
Yeah.
And
the cool part is no matter how cold it gets, you can actually shake that jigging wrap pretty quick, and it'll stay almost in place and just do a real soft quiver. And I think that's what gets a lot of fish to bite it. So
it's simple and stupid. So that's why fish like it.
Very simple and stupid.
Yeah. Which when we were talking about, you can use it almost like a Demiki hovering above them. That was one of my, that was kind of a little bit sneaky. And I used it in the summer too, but taking a Demiki bait, almost say you take a boot tail, cut off the boot tail, and insert like a Z-Man TRD spins. So it's a blade instead. You need to slow roll that instead. So all it is a little blade in the back. That's something I've thrown like last fall and caught some fish when they're kind of being weird. But one thing that I've learned to love to throw, and I'm actually curious if you've thrown it at all, Caleb. It's becoming a little bit more popular, but the free rig. Heavy craw or penning, if it's a heavy alewife lake, I'll free rig like a beaver, or even free rig like a 3.5 inch swim bait, so that like when you lift that free rig up, the weight falls and it's just a small swim bait that's kind of coming down. You can use like a 1/32 ounce Nico to make that fall a little bit faster if you want to, but I've always found that is that's an interesting one.
Yeah, I haven't experimented with that one a whole lot. But I can see it how it'd be, pretty effective in the fall, especially when you're dealing with, real negative fish. So
It's kind of weird. It's like flipping a Texas rig, because like you can flip it under docks and things like that, or say you're flipping grass with it. But like setting the hook on it is like setting the hook on a Carolina rig. Like you got to lean into it a little bit because those fish could be off with your bait and your
Right.
weight is
Yeah,
whole,
almost like a Carolina rig would be.
It's a
I
fun
catch
one.
up to him.
Bailey froze, but he's so excited talking about the free rig. Look at how happy he is here. It's great. No, the cool thing about the free rig that I found, Caleb, I started experimenting with it a ton this year, and it catches both smallmouth and largemouth a ton. So you can like go and fish it in grass with a light weight and lift and shake it, or you can go out deep and catch them in like 30, 40, 50 foot of water and catch smallmouth on it. So it's a cool little technique. I can see your frustration boiling, Bailey.
Am I back?
Yes.
He's back.
Oh, boys, it's almost gun season here for whitetail in New York, and I might just pin a tail on my router here and shoot that thing up instead of a deer.
Oh my gosh.
Go Matt Robertson on it.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
right.
man.
That's exactly right. So actually, fun story for you, Caleb. Speaking of that Matt Robertson thing, so my full-time gig is I work in PR for an agency, and one of our biggest client is Pure Fishing. And I think it was 2 years ago when Matt posted that video, and he posted that video because I was tasked with making a naughty and nice list for the Pure Fishing pros. And I put Matt on the naughty list because his hair made everyone else look bad. And that's how he returned fire at putting on the naughty list. Because I can't remember what he said to the camera, but he's like, he goes like naughty list or something. Santa. He's like, "We'll take this," and just blows up his deer in the backyard.
Oh, the tannerite.
That was the craziest thing ever. That kind of put him on the map for me. I don't know. I'm like, who is this dude? You know, I think he wasn't real well known then either. I think he just qualified through the opens that year.
Yeah, I think
so. Nobody really knew who he was.
I think he took off like you were saying when I think it was the year before he qualified where he won the Open, got some publicity from that, and people were like, "Man, this guy's freaking cool." They're relating to him.
Oh yeah, when he wore the jacket on the classic stage.
But like if you followed bass fishing avidly, I think you knew who Matt Robertson was because he won an Open a few years prior to that. Especially I think if you're from like Kentucky, Tennessee area, you knew who Matt was because he was probably taking your money that weekend. But yeah, I mean the dude's a freaking character. I think he's one that's showing that regardless of your personality, if you let your personality show, you're going to find a little bit more success on the business side of things.
Well, you look back at the history of Bassmasters and some of the biggest names, over there aren't necessarily, for fishing purposes. Some of them just have great personalities and they, show up. Not that, I mean, Matt, man, obviously he can catch them with the best of them, Yeah, if you got a personality, you can go somewhere on the Elite Series. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'll totally agree with that because you have, you got Robertson. I'd say you could put Matty Wong in there. That he was an actor over in LA. You got obviously Ike's one up there that started a whole new trend of just being wild and crazy. I mean, you got
crazy.
Brad Pipkins that has a salon sponsor because of his hair. Like you got a whole spectrum of guys there on the pro circuit that are just a little bit. If you show your true colors, it's things will happen to you.
At this point, all you're missing is the Hooters boat again, and you'll be right in line with everything.
That's Caleb. Caleb's up next. You're gonna run the Hooters boat next year, aren't you?
That'll be me. Yeah, you know it.
And a bush latte wrap, and we'll be doing big things on the Elite Series.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm just waiting for somebody like Swindle or something to run the Victoria's Secret boat next year.
Hot pink.
Who's that one guy who wore the wig? Was that John Cox? A number of years ago, or was that? I don't think maybe it wasn't even a wig. I think he just dyed his hair like blonde or something like that for
it was
a couple events.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was John Cox.
Yeah, he had some crazy hairdo for a while.
Yeah, that was John. He was the dreads and he was blonde.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was John.
Yeah, I think his kids made him a blonde for a while.
Well, then you got guys like Hunter Shryock doing the alter ego of Larry the Legend, talking like a Canadian with a wig on.
Talk about somebody we haven't seen in, like, it feels like a couple years since Larry's made an appearance.
Yeah, I've been trying to provoke that. I talk crap all the time. I saw Hunter's truck at a boat ramp on Chickamauga one time, and so I left him a note on his front windshield that said, I like Larry Legend over Hunter, just to kind of poke some fun on it. I wish he would bring that back, but maybe it'll come back. I mean, he just had a kid, so shout out to the Shryoks. Him and Felicia are amazing people. So maybe the Larry the Legend will come out with his kid or something like that.
Oh boy.
Who knows? It might provoke.
Our kid might be scarred for life.
Yeah.
Who is this clown?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you got to be in the heat of business time, Caleb. You know, getting ready for next year. You mentioned you got the new boat on the way and everything, so you're probably in the heat of getting conversations going for next year.
Yeah, we'll see. You know, just kind of getting things wrapped up this year, and you know, looking forward to next year. Looks like I'm probably going to be, you know, with a lot of the same companies and stuff next year. So,
Awesome.
yeah, looking forward to it. Like I said, selling my boat probably next week, getting that ready to go. I just changed the oil on it today, and you know, got to clean it up a little bit, make it presentable, and yeah, getting my new one in here in probably 3 weeks or so, I would say. So. Looking forward to that. Got all the parts for it already. Got my power poles coming. Got my batteries coming in here shortly. My Impulse lithium batteries. Got you know, some graphs coming too. So looking forward to it. I enjoy it every year. I build out my own boat. You know, I do all the electronics and everything, and wire it all up, and I enjoy doing that. So looking forward to it.
Heck yeah. Are you a guy that loads up like 30 rods for practice type of deal, or do you keep everything pretty simple?
I keep it pretty simple. I mean, I generally only have honestly, probably 20 rods when I leave the house and go to an event. You know, I'm not, you know, the 40, 50 rod kind of guy. You know, 20
4
rods
of them
generally does it for me.
jig, so it's really only 16 rods, because you know,
right.
4 count for a jig.
Yeah, 4 of them are going to be the same.
That's awesome.
Good.
Like, yeah, anything coming up?
Yeah, no, I keep it pretty simple.
Heck yeah. Anything coming up over the off season that people can look out for going into next year for Caleb Kuphall?
Boy, I just hope I do better. Yes, you know, I had a rough year last year. You know, the Elite Series. I'm just hoping that I, you know, honestly, I can't. It's hard to put a kind of a you know, my finger on it, is, you know, exactly what went wrong last year. You know, I did well the year before. I was top 20 in points, and this last year, it's like just everything went wrong. You know, the schedule wasn't quite, you know, what I had hoped, but you know, lost a lot of key fish during the year. You know, made poor decisions. Just, you know, when it starts to go bad, it usually all goes bad. So, you know, it's hard to right the ship a lot of times, you know, when you got that kind of momentum going in the wrong direction. But, you know, hopefully we can turn that around, and, you know, next year will be good to go. So.
Absolutely. Well, next year is a new year. They say clean slate. We have a lag.
Yep.
Well,
getting dark in here.
So it is getting dark. So we'll hit you with our last question. We'll let you go so that you can get out of your truck. So our last question is for everybody that's their first time on the show, that sort of thing. And that is, if you could sit down with 3 different individuals, they don't have to be fishing industry. They could be sports. They could be alive 1,000 years ago, alive now. It doesn't matter. You could pick 3 different individuals to sit down, have a steak, have a beer, pick their brain. Who would you invite?
Number 1 would be Rick Clunn. Well, do they have to be alive or dead, or doesn't it matter?
They could be alive 10,000 years ago. It don't matter. Anybody you want.
10,000 years ago. Number 1 would be Rick Clunn. I look up to that guy a lot. You know, I do a lot of camping myself at a lot of these events, and I've got to talk to him on, you know, several occasions. And you know, there's nobody in the sport that's, you know, got more experience than him. And you know, I just really look up to what he's done, you know, in the sport. But so no, he would be number 1. Boy, Number 2, they'd have to be all in the fishing world, I think. Probably Bill Dance. Guessing
Okay.
he'd be probably one.
Yeah.
And John Cox, I think, would be my number 3.
You're in
So
for some crazy
I like
conversation.
John.
Yeah.
He's he kind of fits my same style of fishing, but he's definitely in a league of his own as far as I don't know how he does it. He's got such an amazing resume, in fishing the way he does, especially with the influx of technology and stuff, just to see what he has done and continues to do, in light of all that is just amazing.
I think that means you just need to dye your hair blonde and get some dreads. That way you can
I guess
channel
so.
some. Yeah,
I guess so. Yeah.
Must be the ticket. But yeah, I mean, the 3 of them at the same table, you're gonna have some crazy conversations, I'm sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, dude, appreciate you a ton for taking the time to come on here and drop some jig juice. I know there's so many dang videos out there talking about jigs, but making yours from scratch and talking about the different nuances you do to like keep the chunk on there, that was pretty dang cool. So appreciate you coming on and sharing that. And I know we're gonna have you on again, hopefully here soon before season kicks off and kicks off to a good start for you.
I hope so. Yep. I appreciate it, guys.
All right, man. We'll be talking to you real soon.
Alrighty. Thank you.
See ya.
Have a good night.
Dude, that shrink wrap deal on the shank of the hook,
Brilliant.
that was awesome. That was freaking cool. But again, thank you to Caleb for joining, talking about that, especially with Do It Molds, man. Like you could see how nuanced you can get it. Like if you want your jig perfect,
Perfect to what you want personally.
Exactly. Because you can tailor it. I mean, there's a lot of great jigs out there, but it's not your jig unless you make it. You know what I'm saying? So it's because there's some tungsten jigs I buy right now still through Omnia that they're good, but there's definitely some things that I would like different about them. Whereas you can go and make exactly what you want with Do It Molds. So if you guys want to check out his exact setup from rod, reel, line, all the way to the jig he makes, we'll link all of that again down below so you guys can click and head over there and get some yourself. But beyond that, man, I'm just looking forward, Andy, to going fishing this weekend because I need it. The fiance, or I almost said fiance, the wife.
You did say fiance, the
I
wife.
know.
Let's get it
It's
right.
weird, man. I gotta get used to that. The wife told me, she's like, get out of the house because she's coaching a swim team, so she's gonna be busy, which means I get to go fishing all day, and I'm looking forward to that. And pouring some Do It Molds myself because it's getting about that time where we're trying to get stocked up and ready for next year, and that's going to consist of a lot of downtime of pouring jig heads, pouring some plastics, things of that nature. I'm hoping to do a nice stunt in Florida this winter too. So pouring a bunch of the beetle, Boshi beetle. I can't remember how it's specifically called.
So,
that
yeah.
looks like a bad freaking dude for punching. But nonetheless, great episode today. If anybody wants to come up and do some steelhead or smallmouth fishing, how should they reach out to you?
Just find my Instagram or click the email down below in the description, and that would be the easiest way.
Cool. Well, folks, if you want to get on some banner smallmouth fishing on Lake Erie, or just fishing in general around the Buffalo area, steelhead wise as well, this is the guy to get in touch with. But folks, if you guys have not gotten signed up and you want to for our weekly newsletter, shoot us an email or go to our website, SeriousAnglerNetwork.com, to do so. And also, another reminder, our brand new show, Kayak Fishing Weekly on the network, is launching next Thursday. Next Thursday, November 2nd, is going to be episode 1. So calling all kayak anglers, we're going to have
it's so exciting.
that show. It's going to be ripping on the Serious Angler YouTube channel, but also it will be on its own MP3, Kayak Fishing Weekly, wherever you find this show, Serious Angler. So make sure you guys check it out. Appreciate y'all, and we'll see you on the next one.